Well, hello, everybody, and I hope everyone is having an incredible March. It's been an incredible time for me. I've been talking a little bit about on live feeds and stuff like that on my social media, but I am excited to have my guest on tonight. We've known each other, I would say, at least 12 years now at this point, maybe 11, 12 years. We met through a group called the Awesome Women's Hub. And thank you to Robin Rice and my friend Carla Goddard, who introduced me to the Awesome Women's Hub. I met my guest a very long time ago, and she's been on my show a couple times. She's going to be on again tonight. But before I bring her on, the Cosmic Conduit is what the name of her business is. This is her new book we're going to be talking about, Wise Beyond Your Fears. And so please welcome Cheryl Lynn. I'll be bringing her on. And so just give me 1 second. Hi, how are you?
Hi, it's good to be on your show. Yay.
I was thinking about that. I was like, wow, we've known each other for like a while.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. When you said 11, 12 years, I'm like, it's been that long. But yeah, long time.
because it was 10 years that we had coffee together in Phoenix. And then it's been 7 or 8 years you were here in Tampa.
Yeah.
With Jennifer.
We were at the event up on the tribal lands in northern Arizona.
Oh yeah, yep, I remember that for the Healers Gathering, the first Healers Gathering. So wow, we have history.
History.
So we're going to be talking about your book, and I have to tell you, I read through the introduction, and there was a part where you're talking about where you're trying to find your place in the world, or you just didn't feel like you fitted in, you were ungrounded. And I don't know, I felt this overwhelming amounts of emotion. Like I wanted to cry just for a second. And I thought, wow, that's powerful. So there's something in you, there's something very special in your book. But I seem to remember, I never thought you would, it never occurred to me that you would write a book. And I know you did a lot of writing. But what made you start, what inspired you to write this book, and what made you decide to start going in that direction?
Well, I never really considered myself a very good writer. I enjoyed English, was one of my favorite classes, but I was terrible at grammar and always needed a lot of editing. And I just decided that I wasn't a good writer somewhere along the line, but I had a lot to say. So it actually, one night I started, in the middle of the night, I got woken up and just heard this strong voice, go to your computer and start typing. And I typed all sorts of things and read it in the morning. I was like, where did that come from? That was kind of how it started. And then this kept happening. Middle of the night, get up, start writing. And I had the thought, I wonder if this is a book. And I got the message that, yeah, eventually, but right now, just keep writing. And so I had a blog. I wrote articles for a newsletter. I post on social media. And eventually people started asking me, is this in a book somewhere? Or have you written a book? Or you should put this in a book. And enough people said it that I started getting a little bit more confident, and I was getting to be a better writer. I still needed a good editor. I definitely, my writing was improving. And then, by the time I felt like it was time to put the book out there, I had so much material, and then I had to figure out how to put it all together into a book form, because I had started out with the idea of how you would normally write a book. You have a topic and you kind of go deep into it. So this is a little different and kind of fun to figure out how to put it together.
Do you find this interesting too? Like when I put my book together, I've got this book on how to write a book. And this is before YouTube was around, but it was still in its infancy stage. So now you can find everything on YouTube. But yes. I remember looking at it, you have to write on an outline. And I'm like, an outline? That feels like my corporate job. I don't want to do that. That's no fun. Yeah. So when my book finally came out, it came out so easily, and I got it done in 3 months. And so, and it took me like 5 years to do that. So did you find that was kind of what happened for you? It just kind of came out?
Well, The writing came out like that. It just was, there would be a topic and I would just write about it, and it was very natural. So the writing itself was like that, but then trying to figure out how it all made sense together was a little different. I'm actually working on a second book already, and it's very different because I know the topic of the book, and not that I've written an outline, because it's the same with me, that, an outline that just feels, or the other wisdom is you spend a certain amount of time at the same time every day writing, and that is not something, like, I do not like being put in a box. I have to write when I'm inspired, and it comes out like that. Like, I had a story in a compilation book some years ago, and the only way I could do it was just to find the inspiration, and then I wrote it in a day. It was easy. Yeah.
And then we got our friend Carlo, who pops out a new book every year or two, 7, 8, 10 books later. So
Yeah.
tell me about why this book and why now? What inspired you? What is this? What is the book? Because Wise Beyond Fears says a lot. So
Well, the timing of it right now, I'm sure you've noticed a lot of people are feeling perceptively blocked from fear, from anxiety, the state of the world, world events, and then how that's reflected in our own lives. And so it's perfect that it came out when it did, because it addresses kind of how to deal with the stuff that life throws at you, and do it from a place of wisdom, like your deeper wisdom,
Mhm.
instead of, what your mind tells you, oh, I should be doing this, and I should be doing this, and I should be doing this. It's like, go beyond that. And, what are your higher levels of consciousness telling you to do? And informing you at every step of the way, and learning how to really trust that deeper voice and that deeper knowing. So the timing is, I've been told, is perfect. Is exactly what I needed to hear today. Often is what people would say, especially on my social media posts. That the messages are just what we're going through as a society right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally understand that. And I think I was just talking to somebody just before we came on the show tonight, and I was sitting there looking at it, and I'm just proud because I feel I'm just looking at the energy of the world right now, and not necessarily the fears or the love or the sorrows or all the chaos going on. It's just the energy,
Mhm.
and it still feels to me like we're in an awakening state. And so and so how do we awaken? We have to let go, right? And the only way to let go is to face all the fears. And so it's all hitting us all at one time. And so I think the timing is powerful.
Do you
Yeah.
remember that there years ago there was a book? It was called "Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway." Do you remember
Yeah.
that? It was like really
Yeah.
popular. It's kind of like the next evolution of that, because that was like powering through your fears. This is more relaxing and understanding what you're actually connected to, that can help alleviate some of those fears and anxieties that people are feeling.
So what do you, I mean, we know that, I mean, I think it was the Course in Miracles says fear, or the whole thing, false evidence appearing real.
Mhm.
What sometimes I think that's overused a little bit, but what do you what do you think about where we're at as far as fears in the world? I mean, it's manifesting as COVID and Ukraine and all the stuff that happened with Black Lives Matter a couple of years ago, and or a year ago. That was a couple of years ago. It was a year ago. So all this stuff is manifesting, but that's just to me that's the manifestation of what's going on in consciousness.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that, an obvious piece of it is that we have so much more access to information than we did in the past, because, there have been wars for as long as, we've been alive, for sure, and way beyond that. And there's been pandemics, and there's been, catastrophes and in political systems and all sorts of things, throughout human history. And is this worse? We're living it, so it feels worse, right? But I think the fact that we're bombarded constantly by information about things that aren't happening right around us, they're happening in the world, and we're much more tuned in to what's happening in places far away, that has amped up the anxiety and made it feel like that it's happening to us. You watch the same news story over and over again, you feel that anxiety inside of yourself.
Right.
When you might, like, I live in a very peaceful place up here in upstate New York, where there's deer and bunnies. It's pretty low stress. And yet if I tune into the news, or I'm talking to a client who's living in a place or in an environment where there's a lot of fear, I have to remember my own peace, my own inner peace, in order to not take that in and feel like it's happening to me and taking on other people's anxiety. The other thing, when you mention, our consciousness awakening, is that also means that our sensitivities are becoming more heightened. So we're more open to the good stuff meaning being able to connect more with our higher levels of consciousness, being able to be more in tune with our fellow humans and nature. And so as that's opening up, we're becoming more sensitive, and then add to that more information coming in, and our bodies kind of go, right?
Well, that makes a lot of sense, because I was thinking, like, as we open it up intuitively, empathically, all that kind of stuff, we're feeling like you're talking about with your carrying. Well, we can see everything that's going on. We can see all the numbers going. We can see all the things. We can actually feel that too. And so before, we probably felt it, but it was on the subconscious level, and now it's being put right in front of us. And so now that's really what I think it's the Mohawk would call the Watiko, and that's surfacing too, because that's the psychic psychosis, or that shadow that's coming up, bubbling up in front of us. I think W4 would say the beach balls are popping up in the water. So I think I'm glad this book is coming out, because have it reach as many people as possible, and mainly because we want them to heal. We don't want people to. I don't want people to feel all the pain and the anxiety that they're feeling right now. So it's definitely an interesting time. That's for sure.
Yeah, I would say so. Yes.
So what would you like the readers to come from in this book? What do you want them to gain from it?
I think, I tell some personal stories. I share some wisdom, things that I've learned. There's even some more creative writing that, came to me in the middle of the night. And I talk about in the how to use this book in the beginning, I talk about that it really is a book. You can read it from cover to cover, but the order of it might not make as much sense if you do it that way. But if you just open the book to a section, you get the perfect message for what you need on that day. And so to feel like you have a book that I wish I had, when I was struggling to understand certain things about my own evolving consciousness. Not that I'm, have reached evolution, completely evolved. But I think the book really is comforting, provides some tools, provides a different perspective than some people might have thought. And even for me, I know it sounds kind of funny, but I actually keep a copy, on the coffee table, and open it up periodically and get the message that I need. And I wrote this. I mean, yes, much of it was channeled, whatever, but I still need these reminders to remember who I really am beyond this, human thing that we're doing right now. Remember that I actually am not alone, even when there's no people around, that I have a whole entourage of, cosmic support. I think that's what I want people to feel, like they have this companion, this guidebook that they didn't know they needed until they picked it up. Yeah.
Well, I think you say something really profound there, because it's when you're, it's even the author You need the wisdom that comes through there. And we, even as authors and teachers, we go out in the world and we have all these experiences, and some of it sets us off, or some of it gets us off balance, and whatever. And we need a reminder. And it's funny because even with my own book, I wrote it, what, 11 years ago? I will still pick that dang book up to this day and read it and go, did I actually write this? Like I'm like, and I'm like, wow, that's actually kind of good. So, and then I realized, like, I don't know if you do this, like I'll read it and I'm like, I don't remember writing this,
Yeah.
and it's because I was in such of the now of the moment, and of course it came from spirit or whatever we want to get it from. Even when we're talking about our own personal stories, that's really spirit guiding us to do that.
Yes.
So do you have that feeling sometimes when you go, I can read it and you're like, oh,
yeah. Yes, especially when I was describing before, where I'd get woken up and I'd type, and like sometimes I'd actually have my eyes closed while I was typing, and in the morning I'd be like, where the heck did that come from? You know, really, where was that? It's like somewhere in me, in my higher consciousness, but it was not necessarily well thought out wisdom. It was just brought through in a way that ended up making sense. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, it's one of those things where, and I think this is a good topic to talk about just for a second, because for all of you out there watching, I mean, teachers that teach and write these books. I mean, I've interviewed people now for 11 years, and guess what? I found out interviewing, even even the Neil Donald Walshes of the world. I found out they're people. As Cheryl said earlier, I haven't quite hidden, full enlightenment. And when we do that, the skin will be shedded and we'll just be pure light.
Right.
And so one of those things, and I think it's important because I remember prior to having to the show, I was like, oh, that's such a cool person. You almost put people on pedestals.
Right.
And then you start to get to know them as people, and they're just people. And that's okay, because we're having a human experience, and that's the beauty of it. That we're having. So yeah,
and that's the other thing about this book. There's you really will get the sense of my wisdom, things I've learned, and my humanity. I share some deeply personal stories that, where I really did not have my act together, and how I came through it, how I came through the other side in certain areas of my life, and I keep learning and growing. And I think that's a key right now, that we understand that there isn't an answer out there, like in a guru, in a teacher, in a book, in a movie, in a course. There are tools that we can adapt for ourselves, but we have to really go within and find that inner guru, that place in us that really is wise, and that we already have so much wisdom. And I think that sometimes we forget to acknowledge ourselves, that we even have it. Right.
Wait a second. Hold on a second. You've always not been perfect. I'm just I'm just messing with you.
There is one section of the book that actually starts that way. So you have it all together. You figured it all out. Not quite. It actually starts like that, because we think that that's the goal of life, to get everything all tied up in a pretty package with a bow. And no, because there's another package to wrap after that one, and after that one, different presents and gifts inside. Right.
Nice. So I know you mentioned in your email to me about potentially reading a part or one of your favorite passages.
Yeah.
You still want to do that?
Yeah, sure. I outlined a couple, but I'm just going to open to the one that, like I recommend, use it like an oracle. And I'm going to open to this one. Oh, this is good. I don't know why this title actually is perfect. It's called Superstar. Remembering the truth of who you are beyond the identities, belief systems, and paradigms you were brought up with is your ticket to living an unencumbered life. For the most part, your old ways of being worked brilliantly until recently. The structures and systems that human beings have created were designed to keep everyone safe, compliant, and uninformed. But as we now are beginning to realize, anything that has its foundation based in something that inherently goes against universal truths will soon begin to crumble under the scrutiny of awakening souls. It may seem overwhelming to realize that what we have been told about ourselves and the world around us might be false. When we have come to trust and depend on what we have come to trust and depend on no longer serves us, we must look deeper in order to remember our true essence. Do not be afraid of losing yourself, dear heart. You will get to enjoy the cool things about being human while also drawing upon many aspects of yourself that will enhance your experience of living on the planet. The amazing thing is that you do not have to study, strive, or struggle to learn these other aspects and abilities. They are already a part of you and have been lying dormant, waiting for the perfect time for you to remember. Now is that time. Can you feel it? Look at you, you multidimensional superstar.
Oh, I love that.
I feel like that one, I don't know why, but when I was reading it, I'm like, oh, this is so Jeremy. My superstar friend.
Aw. Well, thank you so much. And it's interesting because that plays on a lot of what people are feeling. And I don't know if you're getting this. I'm getting a lot of clients that are coming to me. They're like, Jer, I just feel like there's something, got to be something more in life. And when we're talking like attorneys and doctors and people that are executives, they're coming to me and they're like not happy in their life, and
Yeah.
and I was like, well, what would make you happy? You know, I mean, you got to ask the question. And so, and they're like, well, I've always loved traveling, and I've always loved, or like doing, I love tinkering. This one man, he loves building things. He really just wanted to be a carpenter. He loved putting
Mhm.
things together, and he's an attorney. And I'm like, well, wait a second, what made you go into being I mean, you found that people are really having these, I mean, I guess we could call them midlife crises, but I think it's more they're just shifting. I think the planet and everybody's shifting into what's going to make me happy, because I've not been happy for a long time. And I think COVID's bringing us to that point. And that's what reminded me of you reading that passage. I was thinking
Yeah,
about.
and what's really important, what will make me happy, and what is really important to focus on.
Mm,
I had a similar kind of conversation just today with a client, and it was a similar thing where he was frustrated by a lot of things going on in the world, and kind of, well, what can I do about it? You know, and the reality is be happy and bring joy, be in joy, and simplify your own life and do what's important to you, and that becomes an example for others, right?
yeah.
So,
Yeah. What's the old saying? You can only handle yourself.
yeah.
And we're trying to out there fix the world. Um, and but tend to your own garden, I guess.
Yes. And for some people, that means like that is their mission to, spearhead a campaign or get involved in a political
Okay.
thing. That is their true path, but it's not for everyone. And we start thinking that we have to do something like that in order to make a difference. And that just is, we have to do what we're here to do and really understand our own purpose for being here. Yeah.
Well, and I think you said something big there. And I think if everybody did what their soul wanted, they were in alignment with their soul for.
Yeah.
The common argument I get, well, if everybody did what their soul wanted, nothing would get done. And I'm like, you have no, because there's all these. How many people are working in jobs that they felt out of obligation they had to do? How many people became doctors and attorneys and police officers, but they wanted to be a janitor? Now, people will laugh at me when I say janitor, and they'll say nobody wants to be a janitor. But I knew a man that actually became a janitor at a post office, and he left a very good job to become a janitor. And somebody said, well, why are you a janitor? And he said, well, I get to put my headphones in and I get to listen to music. And yeah, I'm cleaning toilets, but I don't have to hear anybody complaining, and I get to be within myself all night long. And I thought, he gets paid to meditate, basically.
Yeah.
And the job is still getting done. And so we're sitting here thinking that nobody'd want to do this, but here's a man, as a classic example. How many people would be happy just doing that?
Yes.
And so we've been taught that we have to be something instead of living, what is it, Joseph Campbell says, follow your bliss.
Yeah.
So
sometimes that bliss is really simple. My son, he has some mental health issues, and people say, oh, that's really too bad. And, he did go through some rough years, but he's in a really great place now. And he has a very simple life. I'd be bored out of my mind, but he has his cats, he has his own apartment, he goes to the grocery store, he talks to his neighbor, very simple. And he is honestly one of the happiest people I know. He really is. And it's not a tragedy, and it's not such a shame. He is living the life that is for him, right?
Yeah.
So he's a great example for me to remember. Like, who says you're supposed to do some big major thing in the world, right?
Well, and his energy, he's probably this great being of light. Well, we know he is. And his happiness, that ricochets out through the universe. So
Yes.
Look at the service he's doing on such a quantum level, and he doesn't even realize it. So
yeah, walking down the street with him is quite special. Like, he knows people on the street corner, from the homeless person who wants to bum a cigarette from him, to the guy behind the cash register, and they're all like, hey, how you doing? And he's definitely shining his light.
I think that's incredible, because what is it the gurus always say? Simplicity.
Yeah.
And then we always overcomplicate everything, and it really doesn't have to be that way. And I'm sure you've experienced that. I know I've experienced it. The more simple and the more I let go, the better my life gets.
Yes.
I mean, and in comparison to, I think you and I were having a conversation. I can't remember the name of that coffee house, but I just had that picture pop up of me and you and Justin.
Oh, yes.
and I said, I'm really, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with my show. I'm not really sure. And I don't know if I want to interview people about their books anymore. Of course I have. But what I found is that you had to find something in that's joy. And I love connecting with people. So that's the big thing. So we overcomplicate it. Like, why is this not doing what I want it to do? Why am I not Oprah yet? Why am I not Larry? And those judgments block us. So how many times do we block ourselves because we overcomplicate stuff?
Yes. Yeah. That's very true. Very true.
So any last minute wisdom that you would like to offer anybody watching?
I think the greatest thing that I personally am learning right now is that no matter what's going on around me and around us, that the place where we can find that calm, that center, if you can get back to that center where you are feeling your connection to all that is, and understanding that you're on a human trajectory from past to future, right? But you're always just right here in that center, in that 0 point. And if you keep coming back to that place where time and space doesn't actually exist, and have those moments throughout your day until it becomes more and more frequent, then no matter what comes at you, no matter what kind of drama is going on in the world or in your family or at your work, you don't get sucked into it. You can come at it from a place of peace and understanding that phrase, "this too shall pass," is one of the greatest truths that I've ever heard in my life. And because it always does, that one constant is that it will change and it will pass. And if you can be the observer of it and just kind of see it as the great play that we're all in, then life is much more enjoyable and peaceful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what goes down must come up. So I wanted to show everybody something really quick before we end our show here real quick. I just wanted to share my screen real quick.
Sure.
And what I'd like to show you guys is Cheryl's website. And the reason why I like to show authors' websites is because I'd like you to actually go to her website, thecosmicconduit.com. And in here, there's stuff on her services. And then there is the link for the book where you can order it, her contact information, all of her testimonials, which are coming soon. And, and so, but I just want everybody to see it's, I mean, I've been flashing the website up on the screen, but, go check out our website. And I know you won't be disappointed. I've had a lot of laughs with Cheryl over the years. I think the last time we were doing an interview, this is before we would do them live. We'd do them on Zoom. Boy, technology's come a long way from the Blog Talk Radio days. Yes. And so I remember we were like a good 2 or 3 minutes into the interview, and I was like, wait, stop. I forgot to hit record. And her response to me was to stick her tongue out at me. And so we had a lot of fun and did the interview. And so, and the lesson I've always learned from Cheryl is have fun, laugh, and listen. Because I've asked her to do a couple things, and a lot of times she says yes. But one time she said to me, she's, let me meditate on it. And she came back a couple days later, not feeling that just right now. Maybe later, not right now. And what I learned from that is to honor what your inner voice is saying. So, anyways, good stuff. I'll pop this up here one more time. And while I'm popping up here, Wise Beyond Your Fears, go to thecosmicconduit.com. And just to tell you about next week's episode, everybody, I will have my friend Jimbo Talbot on at 10 p.m. Eastern. I was just in his Drum Quest workshop, and now he's back in New York. And he is going to do a live drum quest here on my show. So he'll have his drums and all of his other stuff. And it was just an incredible experience. And I wanted to be able to bring it to everybody watching the show. So it'll be on next week at 10 o'clock. So much love, everybody. Lots of great shows coming up. And thank you for watching.
Thank you.